I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard?
Here.
Ms. Nazario? Here. Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Sturgill?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognition of visitors. Do we have any visitors to recognize? Seeing none. We have our first hearing of the public. We have a first hearing of the public. Hearing none, seeing none. Approval of the minutes from the February 10th meeting. Need a motion?
Approved.
Support. Roll call?
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Carried. Old business, February board meeting. Have anything in old business, guys? Report of the treasurer.
Nothing at this time.
Nothing of this kind. Report and recommendations of the CEO and personnel matters. You can just cover it off.
Thank you. Board, if you will look at your place there, I set out a final draft of my notes from the CEO listening tour, and for the public and for the press. This will be made public later this week. I wanted the board to take a look at this. I also sent this today to the Academic Distress Commission. And again, based on my conversations with about 350 staff members and about 150 parents and citizens, there was consensus around some issues that we need to tackle. So I wanted to share this with you. I really don't want to take time to go over this entirely, but there were some common things. Some of this we've started moving on already. There's some things here that we heard, and we've already started a response to some of those things that were common that we have heard. So I would ask the board to go over this. If you have any questions, please give me a call, shoot me an email. If you have ideas about the format, I've gone through a couple different ones, but this is pretty much straight ahead. It's broken down by elementary buildings, what I heard, middle schools, the high school, and then some things just kind of fit district-wide. So there's a little repetition from area to area, but all in all, I appreciated the honesty that I received, particularly from the staff members. I think that they were very forthcoming with those things that were on their heart, things that we need to look at. There's more here than I can tackle in my time with you, but I'll start into it, that's for sure, and already have. And we'll tackle these things, all of which I think will make this a better school district. And the other important part of this, it gives me an opportunity to communicate these concerns with your next leader moving forward, so they can see some of the things, the voice of the community and the voice of our staff as well. So if you have anything that you'd like to follow up, let me know this week. And again, public, we'll have this out on the website no later than Thursday. We'll communicate that out there, and we invite the community to respond to me if they have questions or comments further. Be happy to do that. Coming back to my approval agenda, which I approved last Friday, I believe you have a CEO communique that's been sent to you in email earlier today. I'll hit some of the highlights just so the public knows as well. In terms of hiring, glad to have Mrs. Pistolka and Mrs. Miller at Palm and Jacinto. They're here today. Today was their first day on the job as principals in both of those buildings, so we're glad to have them. And we also went through an interview process to hire the teachers that took their place. And I appreciate their transitioning and their working with those teachers. And as I had conversations with both of them today, they will continue to support those classrooms which they came out of to take leadership positions at the two schools. So thank you to them, and we appreciate their good efforts in all of the things that they've done there. I approved the 2021 calendar. There were no additions or changes to the calendar that I presented to you 30 days ago, so we went ahead and approved that calendar. We've had contract renewals this time of year. We're starting to renew contracts for next year. We had a corporation that we deal with that helps us in workers' comp, also another personnel software that we use extensively called Frontline, and even a renewal with CenturyLink for our phone service. So, Board, if you have any questions, look at your notes on those, but I did want to share that publicly. Glad to say that we are in the process of purchasing iPads for our kindergartners. We need to refresh. We're on a refresh on a regular basis of buying new technology so much every year, and that's almost $170,000 of expenditures of our funds for kindergarten for next year to make sure they have updated iPads. So happy to report that. We've had some programming things that we're doing at some of the particular elementaries. Yasetto, we have a character education program coming there for 5th grade that we have approved. We have a theater program for the youth at Southview, which will include an assembly on Harriet Tubman, which is part, of course, of Black history as we celebrate that, particularly in that building. That's one of the ways they're celebrating there. Musical theater project, which will actually be 8 days, where we will have an organization at Washington to do a program there, which actually is at no cost to the district. We have approved several endowment grant expenditures. That committee, which Mr. Ballard was a part of, and we're starting to see some of those flow through in the requests. So the money and the requests have to come through to our treasurer, and then the expenditures are actually, of course, through the school district. But those dollars are dollars set aside through endowment grant. We appreciate everybody that supports that. So we're starting to see an influx of requests there. Glad to spend that money. We have learning software requests from Washington and Garfield that were approved. We also have PD contracts for Garfield and Washington. At the Garfield staff, it's on social emotional learning and trauma-informed practices, which is probably a good thing. We probably need to expand across the district. And then also at Washington for emotional poverty, which are similar type themes as we look to better serve our students. So doing some specific PD there. And we'll look at possibly promoting that across in other buildings, and we allow our principals to make those decisions, but we'll share that information and look at that. And then the last thing, we renewed our partnership, which is an annual renewal with the Mental Addiction and Recovery Services Board of Lorain County. Of course, there's no cost to that. And Mrs. Georges and I just met the other day and talked about some of the programs they have to offer. We'll continue those conversations about supporting our students and our staff through some of the programs that they offer. And I know from my past as an ESC and a local superintendent, they're a valuable partner to have. So unless you have questions, that concludes my report.
No questions? All are clear?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
New business?
Yep. Is there anything under new business? Is there anything under new business? I do have a question. So I know we keep going through contracts and finding contracts, and some of them are coming up to a term. Is there any way to find out the open contracts that we have so we can be clear on what we're obligated to? And I know that's an awkward question coming from me, but I know there's several contracts out there that's been obligated under the CEO board member power.
You mean for personnel or for?
I'm talking about other vendors that we have
Okay.
out there that we're just trying to get to. Is there a way to?
Tia could probably pull a
Yeah.
report on that.
Would you please? I would be very interested. I know we've talked about that with some of our legal in the past, just wanting to know what we've been obligated to under the other administration.
What would be helpful is if in that spreadsheet or whatever, it could indicate, the vendor, of course, what the amount of the obligation was when it started, what we've paid currently. Some of these are like multi-year contracts. Some of them are just one-time things. Even some of them are professional development. Some are curriculum. Just something that gives us an idea of what it is, what we've paid, what we owe, and then we can kind of assess. That would be
I
helpful.
will say that some of those things have come to my attention through some of it through my conversations with staff, and we have severed our relationship. On one particularly, we're in the process of doing that. Another, we will sever that contract at the end of the year. So we're looking at those on a case-by-case basis as those come forward, but I think that's a good request and something reasonable that will even help me in terms of knowing, what obligations we've had and what obligations we may not want to continue with.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have. Anything further? So we will be going into our executive session today, but before we do that, we'll go into our second hearing of the public, because I'm not sure coming out if we will be taking any votes tonight, so we may want to open it up to any hearing of the public.
Hello. Speaking of contracts, I have a question about the ANET. Are we going to continue the ANET testing and contract going forward?
That's one that's under consideration. I heard a lot of concerns about that. One of the things you'll find on here on the CEO listening tour, particularly at the elementary level, is we have too many tests. We're spending way too much time pulling kids out of the class, out of normal instruction to do assessment. And some assessment is important. That guides our instruction, and I don't want to say that that's not important, but that's being discussed, and we're going to take a hard look at doing away with some of the assessments. We want to be thoughtful about how we do that. So to answer your question, it's under consideration.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to add, for any parents that might be home watching, that we have ACT tests tomorrow at the high school. I believe most of the juniors will be participating. And then I would like, for support, the Lorain High School Prom to Dawn Committee is raising funds. We have a fundraiser on Facebook right now, and Saturday we will be at the boys tournament game with baked goods and floats and those kind of things. So come by and bring some cash and donate for the kids. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes,
I guess it's kind of new business, but old also. Lorain County Community College, their levy.
Yes.
Did we formally, from the district, do some kind of, I know, and maybe legal counsel can help, I know we can't endorse individuals, but we are allowed to endorse issues? Is
we
that
can-
correct or no?
We can support issues.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Okay.
that's a resolution.
So if, even though we don't have the resolution, I guess if we could just kind of walk that on, and then they could draft the according resolution. So I would make a motion that we, if all in favor, that we submit a resolution to support the Lorain County Community College levy initiative.
Support. So we're walking on. That was to walk on.
Yep.
Roll call?
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mrs. Zario? Yes. And Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Now I need a motion to approve.
So a motion to have someone from the administration draft that support letter, and then make sure it gets to them and to the paper and everybody else who would need it.
Support. Roll call? First of all,
Mr.
before the roll call, any discussion on that? Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes,
Mrs. Zario? Yes. Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
carried. Hearing nothing else from the public, we do need to go into an executive session today based on A2, which is employment, and C, to confer with our attorneys. So I need a motion.
Motion to go into executive session for the stated items.
Let me pause you real quick, because we have our safety department here, and let me back up just a little bit before I call for that, because I believe he has an update, and maybe we can do that during public hearing. Yes, please. I almost missed you over there in that corner, I'm sorry.
Good evening. So, the reason I'm here is we had an incident that took place at General Johnny Wilson on this past Friday where a student was apprehended with a loaded firearm. With that being said, I know there's a lot of questions, concerns the community feels that should be addressed. Some of it is difficult because there's investigation from my side. We try to ensure that the investigation is conducted appropriately, quickly, but also other agencies assisting makes it a little harder to give information in real time due to the facts that take time. With that being said, is, for example, an officer shows up and finding out if a student's going to be taken to the detention home is completely based upon the decision the magistrate makes. So we couldn't provide that information in real time. It would take some considerable amount of time to find that out. Also, the report and getting together with admin to talk about suspensions, expulsions, all the process that takes some time. So it's hard to give that update in real time with what happened on Friday. The timing in which it took place was difficult because dismissal was happening coincidentally. So the kids were kind of coming out. I have been asked regarding specifics as to like why we didn't do a lockdown, things like that. It's because of the way the investigation, the way it took place and what happened, those circumstances that change. A young man had the firearm. Information was given to a teacher that he possibly had it on his person. By the time the teacher went down to speak to the student was already walking to the main office, made safety aware. Safety immediately grabbed the student and removed the firearm, which was in the pocket. They secured it, called the police. I went over and we handled it together. The police took over the scene from that point on. So again, it wasn't a threat issued to any student. No threats were issued to any staff. The student basically found the weapon on his way to school. Said he found it on the floor. That's the story that obviously is in the police report and kind of stuck by it. And that's all the information we had at the time. LPD is still investigating. At this time, I called them earlier today to see if the weapon was involved in anything else, connected anywhere else. But as of now, his statement was that he found the weapon walking towards school, didn't turn it in, was in school all day with that. And it was brought to our attention at the end of the school day that another student said they had visualized it in his pocket. So didn't tell anybody, went through the whole day and had it on his person. So I did want to provide an update to that. We didn't put it out to the entire world because we didn't have all the information. And we want to make sure we had everything from our side kind of concluded and conversed with. But I want to make sure that the board, Mr. Ring and I, we talked about it today, trying to make sure that I had all the information, statements, everything kind of squared away. Again, remember it was after school, so even some of the witnesses had left. They were no longer in school. So trying to go back and get a hold of them and then having the police do that investigation because they no longer, the students were not in school. So this morning it would take some time for administration to get a hold of them. So any questions? I did say if they do have questions concerning that they can reach out to my department. They can call me, email me, staff, parents. You know, I'm more than happy to answer the specifics and go from there.
You know,
Yes.
Ruben, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but I think it might be a good time that we have a conversation with our kids, especially K-8, and if it's feasible, 9-12 as well, you know, just about the importance of safety and, you know, when you see something, say something. I think there's a campaign that says that, and I think anything that we do to bring up the awareness of our students around these issues, I think is smart as we head into spring. So you and I can talk about maybe the best way to do that, but I think you know, this brings to attention the need that we need to be communicative to all of our kids and reminders to staff as well.
Absolutely.
You know, about sharing what we know with one another. That's the safest way we can keep our schools, is making sure that our kids know that they do have a safe place where they can share something with an adult, where people like you and I and our principals and our teachers can take care of it. So we'll think through that a little bit, but I want to let the public know that we are concerned and we're going to take a proactive approach to making sure we communicate with our kids our expectations in terms of keeping each other safe.
Absolutely. I just, and to echo off of that, dovetail that, had the student not said anything, the administration, the school would never have known that that young man had a weapon. So the fact that a student stood forward and said, I believe X, Y, and Z, is what led us to be able to find what we found. The teacher that was involved did an excellent job with the relationship they had with the student to be able to communicate and be able to resolve that, and then the safety, which again, we can Monday quarterback it a lot, but with what was known at the time and the way they handled it was very swiftly. They took it as quick as they could, and with the variables changing, it was a quick response. So we will definitely speak on that, and I'm comfortable with doing that. Okay. Any
Thank you.
questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, again, we need a motion to go into executive session for A2, being in employment, and C, to confer with our attorneys. Motion?
Motion?
Roll call?
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nazario? Yes. Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes. Not sure if we'll be making any votes when we come out. There you go. So we need a motion to come out.
Motion to come out of executive session, please?
Yep. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Simple.
Yes.
Simple.
So is there anything else for the good of the order? Pardon? The next board meeting, so we're going to do a joint board meeting with the ADC on March the 3rd. So I guess the question I would have for you all is we have another meeting the following week on the 9th. Are we still going to have our 9th meeting as well, or do you guys want to postpone that meeting?
Can we wait and see? Because we can always postpone or cancel it after.
So our next board meeting will be at General Johnny Wilson, correct?
Yeah.
With the ADC
Yes.
on March the 3rd at
5:30.
5:30.
5:30.
Nothing else there, guys? I need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support. Roll call.
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you all.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.